Ooh, yeah. She dickered. Alright, so here's the kit I was talking about. This is the 86 to 93 Mazda B series carburetor kit for all the trucks that came with carburetors in the factory. You know, we're almost all the way through April. You think we'd be done with this, but apparently not. Alright guys, welcome back for another video. We got the TT front bumper behind us. Last time you saw this, it was probably 3 different colors and looked really, really bad. We might have even had some cracks in it still. I can't remember, honestly. So I did work on it a little bit without you guys, and I apologize for that. But in this video, I really want to show you, what kind of the last step is here before we're ready to paint this bumper. I'll put a few clips in right here so you can see it, but this thing was in terrible shape. If you've seen some of those videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this has not been an easy or a quick process to get this thing all primered up. And believe it or not, we're not done yet. There's still some imperfections we're going to highlight in this video, show you how to fix them, and then talk about the paint and a few other things we got coming up for the Audi. One other noteworthy thing I wanted to show you quick. This is kind of funny. So this corner of the shop leaks an astronomical amount of water. I don't know if you guys have ever used this stuff, but this stuff is pretty great. I feel like I should be making a Billy Mays, rest in peace. I should be making kind of a... That's not Billy Mays. Anyway, I feel like I should be making an infomercial for this stuff. So we put silicone down where the drywall meets the floor. Then I did Flex Seal and then some Expandifoam, obviously. More Flex Seal, hopefully it works. There, that looks, well, pretty ridiculous. So we're gonna get to that one. I wanna show you something on this one, actually. Don't know if I have key in here. Yeah, I know, there it is. So the steering column is all taken apart because of a light issue that we had. Let's see if we can get her. Battery might be dead. Yeah, she's stone dead right now. That's all right though. The main thing is underneath the hood there. Let's pop that. Yeah, I broke that. It freaking exploded in the wintertime. So it's been a long time since you guys have seen anything to do with this truck, really. I believe it was when we got it stuck down the hill. That's another story. But look at this carb and look at all of this mess of vacuum lines, your hot air recirc, all this crap that goes into a stock carburetor on this Mazda. We have a really weird high idle concern, and anytime you've tried to put any sort of load on the engine, it dies. Back when I was in high school, that wasn't really a problem. You just take this off, swap a Weber on there for 250 bucks, but now the same kit is about $400. Then we look at this old girl here, and I don't want to spoil the surprise necessarily, but that'll give you a good hint. So we got some goodies coming for this one. Look at that. I should have been better about getting a before and after, but my buddy over at Woody's Custom Coatings and Repair just powder coated and sandblasted these down for me. So little 2000 Fast and Furious vibe for the Audi. And if we go around the front, she dickered. All right, so before we get to kind of our final prep process, I guess, I just wanted to show you guys the obvious imperfections. And this corner, if you remember right, we had to completely reconstruct with JB Weld. It's a little rough right there, kind of tough to see, so obviously a gloss color would make that much more noticeable. So we're gonna hit this up. A couple noticeable spots. One right there, I gotta do a little bit of sanding work. If I make a shadow like that, you can see right in this spot here needs a little work, and then right here is a high spot. This was a crack. I'm gonna have to try to fix this crack here. Then the rest of it actually looks pretty good. Got a little scuff on there. That's okay, we can get that right out of there. I ended up having to order this plate used. One of the forums on Facebook kind of hooked me up on that, one of the pages I should say. One other spot we had a little bit of issues with is right here. I actually found a hair in the primer, and then when I pulled it out, I kind of had to, yeah, we're gonna have to sand this down. So we're gonna touch this up with primer again, but pretty much ready, to go and get sprayed. And I got a surprise for you when we get to that point. This is, I don't know if that's a shadow or where something oily looked like it touched it. So this will all have to get cleaned down. We'll go over all of that. Next thing we got to do is just spritz this thing down with some water and get to sanding. So if you guys have any big spots to knock down when you're doing something like this, you can use one of these sanding pads. I like the ones that are backed with a little bit of foam, if you can see that, because that way you're not going to leave any finger scratches, which I guess really doesn't matter if you're doing something that's in primer. This is just a medium grit. It's actually really coarse. So like that spot I showed you where we had to pull something out of the primer, that will be where you want to use something, you know, like this. We're going to go around with a thicker sandpaper like this and knock down any imperfections we have. We can reapply primer. That's not a big deal at all. When you wet sand though, you're going to want to use something that is much, much finer. So I'm going to grab that. So this stuff, this is a pack. You can see there's a lot of sheets in here. I got this from the Dollar General, and I think it was $2 for like 50 sheets of sandpaper, which is a good deal. This is very, very coarse. You would not want to use this to do any wet sanding. When I was checking my work and filling these areas with body filler, JB Weld, glazing putty even, I would use this stuff to knock it down because it's cheaper, and you can use coarse sandpaper. When you're doing a wet sand, this is a 2000 grit piece of sandpaper right here from 3M. 3M makes really good stuff, and this is what you would want to use to kind of go over the entire thing and make sure that there's no like excess buildup of primer or anything like that. So we'll hit the whole thing with this, and you can go crazier with that too. This is a 3000 grit. It doesn't even feel rough at all. It feels pretty smooth. But right now we are just going over any of the major imperfections with this piece of paper right here. Then we'll have to dry it all off and kind of see where we're at. The water actually works as a really good check too, you know, and I'm by no means a professional body guy, but remember this big spot right here we showed you when it was dry. You can see it's still going to kind of show up now that I've sanded it one time, but anytime you have, you know, an oily substance, which could even be from your fingers, that gets on your primer surface, you might not see it or think it's a big deal when it's in the primer, but when I first sprayed this, I should have showed you before I sanded it, this just instantly was a line, which means there's some sort of foreign material in this primer and your paint might not adhere correctly. So really take your time with this. All right, so this is the part of the process where everything becomes more work than you think it was going to. So I just highlighted a few of the spots where there's more damage again than there really should have been, essentially. On the bottom side of this bumper right here, there was a lot of debris on the bottom, which when we're doing primer, I'm not so worried about a controlled environment because we're gonna do the wet sanding process and find our imperfections anyway. But I did find one crack right here, and it looked like a line in the primer. But from that clip you just saw, there's a crack about this long, right about here. So we're gonna have to flip this thing over, see if we can use this guy. If you guys haven't seen this before on the channel, this is courtesy of the Wish app, actually. And I know the Wish app isn't known to have quality items, but sometimes for the price, I just try things out. This is a plastic staple gun, so essentially it's just a solder gun or a heat element, right? Pretty simple, and then you put the staple between those two prongs, and then I like to use it from the back side, and you melt the metal in and secure the crack, essentially. So I'm gonna have to do that there, and then this corner on this end, right in here where the little mesh insert goes, there's also a crack there on one of the corners. It looks like the epoxy might have popped, so I'm gonna try plastic stapling that as well. If I have to remove the epoxy and add more stuff, I can do that too. But these things always go like this, you guys. So I'm gonna flip this thing around. We're trying to get this crack buttoned up. All right, so crack spots that we need to fix. You can see the extensive staples and JB Weld that was in this section here. There's actually a spot there and there that were complete holes, and we filled them in with JB Weld. These spots are okay. They worked quite well. There's a crack right here, so I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3 on those hash marks. And then see where this crack is right here? All along here, this is on the surface. So I might tack a few in here because it's not through to the other side. But right there is where I saw that crack. I'm gonna flip around to this side. See if you guys can see it there. Right there. See, it kind of stresses if I pull on it. And then the other one's right there. So I must have bumped this and agitated it when I was moving the bumper around. So I'm gonna put 3 in there. and then we're gonna do 3 or 4 in that spot right there. This is what I was talking about by the debris, so obviously we'll have to sand all that off. Then if we come around to this corner here, I didn't get enough plastic staples in here. I got 2 in, so we're gonna go around and put more in right here. So I think, you know, this crack probably came past a little bit, and then once this was secure, it got stressed and broke this section too. So we're gonna have to restaple this, not a huge deal. Now we're on the front side of it, and you can see where it's stressed and split, so we're gonna have to go back and fill in that crack too. Again, like I said, you guys, I'm not super upset about this. It's kind of frustrating, but when you're into car projects like this and you're fixing this kind of stuff, would have been way better off, obviously, just to buy a new bumper, but I wanted to show you how to fix this stuff. That's why we did the few videos previously where we finished getting this thing ready to seal up. This stuff takes a lot of time, but depending on the car you're working on, you know, like the TTs weren't super common here in the States, so getting parts, and it's an Audi, is relatively expensive. I think the cheapest one I found was about $400 with shipping, and I don't want a cheap aftermarket bumper cover unless you're just doing it on a daily beater, daily driver you don't really care about. I don't recommend that. They don't fit very well, so I knew I wanted a used OEM one if I was going to go that route, but it ended up just making way more sense to spend some time on this. It's a project car after all. So I'm gonna get the plastic staple gun set up, set you guys up, and then we're gonna attack these spots. All right, so these are the staples right here, and one thing that's kind of annoying is I ran out of 90s, so I'm gonna just lay these down in here, and then I'll show you kind of how I fix that. All right, so here's the plastic staple gun, and then this is what one of the staples looks like. You can get these in various sizes. I ran out of the 90-degree ones, which are really nice, so I'm actually gonna try to bend this one carefully without breaking it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and you just essentially put it in here like this, and then you pull the trigger until it starts to get hot, and it's just gonna sink into the plastic. That's what it looks like in the gun. Again, like I said, I ran out of the ones I wanted, so you can see I kind of tweaked this one. You can't bend them too much without breaking them, so we're just gonna go ahead and all right, so you can see kind of how this looks. We already had a staple over here, and then we added one right here and right here where this crack was. So I'm gonna have to go back on the front side and fill in that gap. Then if we look at this one over here, I got 3 in this section, so that should be nice and good. I only got 1 here because I forgot we had JB Weld here, and JB Weld is very heat resistant, so I couldn't get through where we had already put the JB Weld, but it's really stiffened up now. You can see the whole piece kind of moves as one unit. So this is good now. It just means a little bit more sanding, a little bit more work. All right, so now the next part kind of sucks. I got some industrial sized tubes of JB Weld. So we're gonna mix some of this JB Weld up and put it over the 2 spots that we just plastic stapled. And then I'm gonna put a little bit on that crack that you could see on the outside corner. So it sucks because now I have to wait for this to cure before we can go on with the video. But I wanna make sure this stuff is strong. This is great stuff. I love JB Weld. Is it the way that you're supposed to do this? Yeah, as a professional body guy, probably not. But you've seen how this thing looks so far, and I know it works, so we're going to go ahead, mix this up, and then we'll play the waiting game. All right, so if you haven't used this stuff before, you just mix the white and the black 50-50 until it looks gray, just like this. That section's cured right there, and then I apply it with my dick beaters, but what's that phrase? Do what I say, not what I do. Yeah, so probably don't touch it with your fingers. That's what I've always done. So like you can see, I added it where these staples were, those staples were. There was one spot down there that I added to. And then we came over here and added in this corner, and this really sucks because, well, I'll show you when I flip it over, but these corners were probably the hardest part to form, minus the holes that were actually in the bumper. If you haven't seen that before, we actually had holes that were busted out, you know, full holes like that, but they were bigger and misshapen, so I used JB Weld to fill those. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this thing back over, and we'll show you what I'm talking about on that corner. All right, now that we got you flipped around, right here in the corner is what I was talking about. So we're gonna have to reshape this corner once it cures, but I'd rather do this thing, you know, while it's all in primer than get it painted all nice and then have to go back and fix a bumper that already looks pretty. So minor setback, you guys, but essentially once I shape that and then we get the whole thing wet sanded, we're ready for paint. As far as paint goes on this vehicle, I'm gonna paint the entire car at once. I wanna keep the denim blue. You know, let's go talk about it. All right, guys, so obviously on this one, we updated you on the Audi TT front bumper progress. Just kind of wanted to show you what the next step for that is before we're completely ready for paint. Like I said, I want to paint the entire car at once, order all my paint at once. I'm going to be painting it myself. I'm going to keep it that denim blue color. I love that color, and I'd love to paint the front bumper first for you guys just so you can see that process, but I know how this works, and if I order denim blue and then I go back and get a second batch mixed up, it's not going to match, or I should say the probability that it's not going to match is very, very high. So I know we had to go and fix some extra things on that I really wasn't anticipating. I didn't think I'd have to add any more JB Weld, but this is how car stuff goes, right? Every time you do any kind of project like this, you just kind of go into it understanding that you're going to spend more time and more money probably than you initially anticipated. And you know, this video, you guys, and just in general, this is very frustrating for me because I'm not one of those auto channels that can go out and just drop, you know, thousands of dollars on these cars. And all of the cars that we have on the channel are older. We got an 83 Fox body that we haven't seen in forever. We got a 2000, so it's 22 years old, Audi TT. I think the Audi TT is timeless. I absolutely adore everything about the car. That's probably the one car I would say that if you got in it and you didn't know what it was or what year it was, it doesn't seem like it's 22 years old. I love the Audi, but it's still a 22-year-old Audi, so we have that to deal with. There's a lot of things that need to be done on that car before it's ready to just be enjoyable, right? And there's also a lot of things that I would like to do and I can't really spend the money on right now. I know the GTI guys love those Detroit style wheels. I don't really care for them on the TT, but for this season, that's probably something we're gonna have to deal with. I want to get some polished gunmetal RPF ones for that thing because the end goal with the TT, I want to have fun with it. I want to take it out to the drag strip, which is literally 5 miles down the road from my house. I want to do autocross with that car. So the RPF 1 wheels are just going to be the right choice. It's kind of a no-brainer. They're fairly inexpensive and they're track proven. But then again, you're talking about spending at least $1,200 on wheels. We got the Mazda pickup, which is a 1987. So all of these vehicles are old, which requires you to put money into them. And we're just not at a point right now where I can dump copious amounts of money on all of these vehicles. And it's very frustrating for me as a creator because I'd love to get stuff done faster. Like the Fox body, literally I'd never get rid of that car. It's literally all just been money. I have the motor machined, as you know, I've said that a million times. It all boils down to money. So I just want to be transparent with you guys, and we're making moves. You know, the business is growing, the channel's growing every single day. So I'm excited and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give up and quit working on these things. I'm just glad that you guys are patient with me as we kind of get the ball rolling on some of these projects. And know that you're not alone. I would love for these things to go a lot faster, and it sucks, but it literally boils down to money. The Audi, after we get the front bumper back on the car and we can paint it, that's really not going to be that expensive. That I'm kind of just waiting for a little bit nicer weather. I don't want to be doing too much painting when it's cold outside. Paint really isn't going to be that expensive. I think when I did the math, I'm going to be in at about $375, which is awesome, and I'm going to paint it myself. And then the rest of the car, just to kind of give you an idea, you know, of how all this stuff works financially. When I bought it, it's got 187,000 miles on it, I believe. So just under 200,000 miles, and it came with 2 rear axles, and they do need to be replaced, but I went and noticed that the front axles, the CVs are shot on that, so I got to buy 2 more axles. The car needs brakes on all 4 corners, and I'm going to take that opportunity to do a mild upgrade on the brake system, so that's another thing we got to buy. I need to fix the suspension. The front shocks, the mounts are literally shot on that car. When I lift the car on the max jacks, you literally can start wiggling the tire and it just drops down because the mounts on the shocks are shot. So I want to do Raceland coilovers when I do that, get the car stanced a little bit better, get it ready to do some autocross events and stuff like that. But right there, and that's not even going into the wheel bearings that it needs, you're talking about another $1,500 worth of parts. And that's with the labor being free, you know, me doing it all myself. So I thank you guys for being patient with me, and those of you that enjoy the videos and engage in the comment section, all of that good stuff, I really appreciate you. And just know that we're never going to give up, and we're growing every single day. This last clip I'm going to throw in here is actually a brand deal that I got with Odelphi headlights, and stuff like this helps me be able to grow the channel even more. So check out this last little clip here, please. I personally use this product all the time, especially when I do mechanical repairs and detail for the business, and it's a very, very nice product. And if you want one, I'll have a 10% off coupon code and a link to the website down in the description below. So if that's a way that you want to support the channel, you want a cool headlight, the channel gets a little financial bump every time I sell one of these bad boys, so check it out. Links in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.